Did Oliver Hazard Perry give up the ship? His famous banner and flag that flew during the Battle of Lake Erie during the War of 1812 says, "Don't give up the ship." But did he give up the ship? Join me today on Walk with History as we talk about Oliver Hazard Perry, the Battle of Lake Erie, and the War of 1812. So Oliver Hazard Perry was born August 23rd, 1785. This monument to Oliver Hazard Perry is one of two monuments. There's actually one here and there's actually one in Newport, Rhode Island. And it's in Newport, Rhode Island because that is where he was actually born. He becomes captain of his first ship at age 24. So he's a very young naval captain.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
He actually dies on his 31st birthday, August 23rd. So he has a very short life as well. But his victory at the Battle of Lake Erie given to a couple of different things. First of all, his crew was very able. His crew consisted of both white and black sailors, and they were able sailors. They knew what they were doing. They came from all different areas here in Erie, but they knew how to sail. He also wouldn't give up the ship, right? So you have a captain who's young and who is able, and he's not going to give up. So why was the War of 1812 fought? The War of 1812 happened because of impressments. So the British Navy was stopping American ships and impressing upon them sailors to join the British Navy. And President Madison got upset because you're basically taking people away from America and making them become British citizens. So he declared war on Britain. And really, some significant things happened for the War of 1812. DC is burned. That's the famous Dolly Madison taking the photograph with her enslaved people. She's making them take down stuff in the White House, and they're saving like the portrait of George Washington. The national anthem comes out of the War of 1812. Francis Scott Key is held as a prisoner, and he watches the Battle of Fort McHenry, and he sees the bombs in the air, but he sees the American flag stay through the night, and he writes the poem that will become the national anthem. And then the Battle of Lake Erie, which is fought September 10th, 1813, so actually not even in the year 1812, and it is won by the Americans. And the British basically at that time just kind of give up.
Come on, let's get out of here.
Because they are also fighting another war at this time. They don't need the distraction of the American war. So they basically say, yes, you win. We won't impress upon your sailors anymore. And that is the end of the war. The motto, the flag also come out of the War of 1812. And we get the first images of Uncle Sam. So when you see Uncle Sam on patriotic posters and army propaganda, that also comes out of 1812, so that image of Uncle Sam. But this monument is built in commemoration of the Battle of Lake Erie. It's built to commemorate Oliver Hazard Perry's victory. So that is why that is here at Prescott. This was built and dedicated September 10th, 1926. And the famous "Don't Give Up the Ship" flag that was flown by Oliver Hazard Perry. This flag, the original, is now at the Naval Academy. There's a recreation at the museum here in Erie. But this was Oliver Hazard Perry's best friend Lawrence's motto. And when Lawrence was killed, he made a flag in his honor and named his ship the Lawrence after him. Unfortunately, during the Battle of Lake Erie, the Lawrence was destroyed. And so Oliver Hazard Perry took a rowboat from the Lawrence to the Niagara and defended the Niagara, took his flag and used that as his flagship, and actually won the Battle of Lake Erie. After the Battle of Lake Erie was won, Oliver Hazard Perry came back here with his ships. He was only here for about a month. Then he did a tour of the USA to commemorate his victory.
What can I say?
And his crew stayed here. And in the winter from 1813 to 1814, they sunk both ships. The Niagara and the Lawrence were sunk over here in Missouri Bay, and a bunch of the crew had died from smallpox, and they were actually buried at sea, or buried at lake over in graveyard pond, which is on the other side. So 100 years later, they actually brought up the Lawrence and the Niagara. They rebuilt them. The Lawrence they actually burned in commemoration, and then the Niagara they sunk again. And they used pieces of it for commemoration. People made canes, people made clocks, and there are still pieces at the Erie Maritime Museum. This is the Oliver Hazard Perry statue in Perry Square, downtown Erie, Pennsylvania. This statue was put up on August 23rd, 1985 in honor of the 200th birthday of the hero of Lake Erie, and that is Oliver Hazard Perry. He will take command of America's Lake Erie Naval Fleet at Presque Isle in March of 1913. And then he also will be the commander, of course, of the Battle of Lake Erie. The statue is to commemorate his victory at the Battle of Lake Erie. You can see he's holding the Don't Give Up the Ship flag that is made by the women here in Erie. Actually presented to Oliver Hazard Perry the day before the battle, so September 9th, 1813. The battle will take place September 10th, 1813, so he got it just in time. So Don't Give Up the Ship has kind of turned into Don't Give Up the Fight, not necessarily a physical ship. This statue in downtown Erie has kind of a critique as the Saturday Night Fever statue, because Oliver Hazard Perry has his finger up in here, just like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever.
Okay.
I'm standing here at the end of State Street in Erie, Pennsylvania, and this is called Dobbins Landing. And it's called Dobbins Landing because of Captain Daniel Dobbins. In late 1812, Paul Hamilton was the Secretary of the Navy, and he received information from a longtime American lake mariner, Daniel Dobbins. So Dobbins had sailed these lakes for many years, and he had good intel and information about where would be a great place to build ships and find the wood to build them. And he recommends Presque Isle as a naval base, and he recommends that the wood in the area be used to build the ships. Now, Presque Isle is a French word. It means little island. So the French were first here in the 1720s. They built the first forts here. The French and Indian War will happen here, and then they'll burn forts that were here. The Americans will take it over after the American Revolution. So Dobbins is a Pennsylvanian. He is born in Pennsylvania. He knows the area. He knows the people here. Hamilton asks him directly, where is the best place to build ships? And Dobbins unhesitatingly says Presque Isle. Before Dobbins leaves Washington, D.C., he's given the dimensions of a small gunboat. In January of 1813, there's a new Secretary of the Navy, William Jones, and he commissions 2 brig-rigged ships, and those will become the Niagara and the Lawrence. I am standing in front of the Perry 200 commemoration mural that commemorates the shipbuilding that happened here in Erie, Pennsylvania at the Cascade Street Shipyard. It's at the corner of State Street and 12th Street, right downtown Erie. And of course it has Oliver Hazard Perry on one side and Daniel Dobbins on the other. So this depicts the building of the ships, the Lawrence and the Niagara. These were actually commissioned in January of 1813 by William Jones, the new Secretary of the Navy. He asked for 2 brig-rigged ships, and that will be the Niagara and the Lawrence. The Lawrence, of course, named after Oliver Hazard Perry's friend, who was the captain of the Chesapeake, who had died in battle, and his last words were, "Don't give up the ship." And the Niagara. What I love about this mural is it depicts African-American men helping build it. You see 3 of them in the picture, and that is accurate because 1/3 of Perry's crew were African-American, 1/3 of the shipbuilders were African-American. They were able-bodied, they knew their trade, and they were great sailors. A great depiction of American history. Dobbins will lobby for the United States Revenue Cutter Service, which will be a precursor to the Coast Guard. And he will serve in naval operations till 1848. He will die at 80 years old in 1856, and he will have lived in Erie all of that time. So today we're just going to leave a flag. Without Captain Daniel Dobbins, the ships probably wouldn't have been built here in Erie. Oliver Hazard Perry may not have won the Battle of Lake Erie, and Erie might not have the notoriety that it has today for helping to win the War of 1812. So thank you, Captain Dobbins, for having that forethought, for unhesitatingly saying, build the ships in Erie, Pennsylvania. Although the people of Erie, Pennsylvania are a major factor in the success of the War of 1812, it was Daniel Dobbins that actually brought the War of 1812 to the people of Erie. It's his quotes to say no finer oak grew there, and there was no better place to build ships in security. Then it was Oliver Hazard Perry's tenacity that secured the win. After the Battle of Lake Erie, he has a very exciting life. He survives a duel with a Marine. And then in 1818, he almost brings the captain of the Niagara, Elliott, up on charges of court-martial. To avoid a scandal, the Secretary of the Navy and President Monroe offer Perry a position in South America in exchange to drop the charges. But it's there that he's struck down with yellow fever and dies on his birthday, August 23rd, 1819. He's first buried in Trinidad, then moved to Newport, Rhode Island in 1826. His descendants still survive today. On to my next Walk with History.